Hi everybody. So we're getting ready to do Sweet Land of Liberty, the Kimberbell square pillow. And there are a few of the blocks that are in here that are too large for a 6 by 10 hoop. But I've been trying to figure out a way that we can, alter that enough that you can still do all the quilting and everything in the hoop. And I think I figured out how to do all three of them. So there was three blocks, and there's the Sweet Land of Liberty block, the flag block, and the cake block that are all a little too large for a 6 by 10 hoop when you put the quilting designs, because I'm going to teach this with the quilt as you go method. So I'm going to show you how I have altered these. The design, if you have a little bit of software, and I know a lot of you do have some software of some sort, and you don't need to have anything real fancy to do this. It's a very simple editing feature. So you should be able to do this with most anything that you would have. And I'm going to be using the Dime Perfect Embroidery Pro software to show you how to do this, but all the softwares are going to be very similar when it comes to the actual steps of doing this, okay? So the first thing we need to do is I'm just going to create a new design here on my Perfect Embroidery Pro. And the first thing I want to do is I'm going to bring up my quilting design that I need. So we're specifically going to be talking about the Sweet Land of Liberty, the cake block, and the flag block, okay? So Sweet Land of Liberty is going to be done with a 6 by 6 quilting design. And on page 4 of the instructions, it tells you which designs they use, quilting designs they used for each block. So Sweet Land of Liberty, they used Wavy 4. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to open up that quilting design, Wavy 4. It's on my stick here. I have to, oops, got to get back there. Let's see, block by block, PES. And I need the 6 by 6, whoops. I think I need Wavy though. I think I got in the wrong one here. I need to go back. There we go. So patriotic, I need Wavy. Wavy 4. Okay, so we're going to go to Wavy. I'm going to open up the PES block, and it says the 6 by 6 vertical is the one they said they used. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and find 6 by 6, and that's the finished size. 6 by 6 Wavy vertical. There it is. Okay, so I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to open it. Now, this is where I want you to look at the size. So when we're looking up here at the top on my software, the size is up here at the top. So it says it's 6.51 by 6.51. So I know that's going to be too big for that 6 by 10 hoop because it only is 6 1/4. It's actually 6 1/4 by 10 1/4. So I know it's going to be a little bit too big for that. Okay. So we're going to fix that. But first, what we want to do is bring in the design that we're actually going to sew on top of the quilting. So we want to bring the quilting in first, and then let's bring the design in. So I'm on my software, I can merge files into it. So I'm going to go File, Merge, and then I'm going to go find my, it's on the same stick. I'm on the stick here. Let's see, it's Sweet Land of Liberty. Here it is. And my embroidery files, I've got PES files. And we're looking for Sweet Land. So it's Sweet Land, here it is, right here. And I'm going to open that up. And then each block, it tells you in the instructions where the design is supposed to be in relationship to the quilting. So this particular one says to align the block embroidery file with the quilting design so that both files are centered. So these automatically come up centered on each other, and that's where I want them to be. Okay, so that looks good. But we need to take care of the problem that this is a little bit too big. It's still going to work just fine, but you'll have to make one small alteration. So the first thing that sews is in the quilting, in every quilting design sews in the same order, okay? The first one is going to be the batting placement line, okay? So we need to have that in there because we know where to put our batting. And then the second thing that sews, and you can see that is a little bit smaller. You can see where the selection is, and that line is smaller than the whole design. So that's good because those are okay. Then we need to sew the tack down line. So the second thing is the tack down line for the batting. Then we're going to trim our batting. Okay, so now the third and fourth steps are the ones that are the offending problems. They are the ones that are too large. So you can see I'm out on the outside of this design, and that makes it too big for that 6x10 hoop. So what that is the placement line for the fabric and then the tack down line for the fabric. So in order to fix this, we can actually just remove those two lines. So I'm going to take out step number 3. I'm just going to select it over in my sequence view. It helps me find, everybody should have something like a sequence view that helps you find the parts of your design. And I'm just going to hit delete on my keyboard, and I'm going to select step number 4, and I'm going to do the same thing. Now you can see the design's smaller now, but I did notice that there, at the top, it still says it's 6.26, and I noticed that there's a little stitch kind of hanging out over here on the left. And sometimes that happens with designs, so you just have to kind of watch it. So if I look over in my sequence view again, there's a little manual stitch that's sitting there that could cause that knot to fit in my hoop. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that manual stitch too. And now when you go up to the top of my screen, it says the width is 6.02 and the height is 6.24. So I know it's going to fit in my 6x10 hoop now. Okay, so there's the first one. So what you would do is the first step then is going to be your batting placement line. Then you're going to lay your batting down and you're going to sew the batting tack down line. Then you're going to trim your batting. So see, we won't have any batting in the way. Okay, and then you're going to lay there's batting there, so it makes it easy. You can lay your background fabric over the batting. Okay, and then since there's no tack down, I would recommend maybe taking some Kimberbell paper tape and taping around the fabric just to hold it still, so when it quilts it won't move around on you. Okay, so I would do that there, and then the third thing that's going to sew then is all the quilting, and that'll tack it all down, but that way your fabric won't move if you tape it in advance. And then the last thing that we'll sew is your entire Sweet Land of Liberty design. Okay, so there's your fix for that one. That one's going to work fine in a 6x10 hoop. I'm just going to go ahead and save this now. I'm going to go to File, Save As. I'm going to save it, in my case, as a PES version 9 because I'm going to be sewing this in my Brother machine. And I'm going to save it on my desktop as, I'm just going to call this Sweet Land. Let's just name it Sweet Land with Quilting. Okay, 6x10. I'm just going to say that so that I remember I fixed that for the 6x10 hoop. I'm going to put it on my desktop and save it. Okay, so there's one of them fixed. So the second one that we're going to look at is the cake, and it's got the same problem. So I'm going to go, let's just open the quilting design first. So I'm going to go into my stick again, and the quilting design on page 4, it tells me for the cake is Patriotic 3. So I'm going to go find my stick, and I'm going to bring open Patriotic 3. Whoops, I Kimberbell quilting first. And then Patriotic 3. And it says 6x10. So embroidery files, I'm going to do the block by block ones. And I'm going to do 6x10. Patriotic 3. There we go. So there's my design. And then I want to bring in my cake design, so I have it together. So I'm going to go ahead and do File Merge again. And I'm going to go back up to Sweet Land of Liberty. Okay, here it is, Sweet Land of Liberty, Embroidery Files. And I want to get my cake, and it's the 6x10 version because I'm going to do it in one piece. Now, if you do have a smaller machine like a 5x7 machine, they give you a split version of this design. Okay, so those of you that have a really smaller machine can still do it too. All right, so there is my cake. And this one also told me in the instructions that they should be centered on one another, which they are. Okay, so now if you look up at the top again, we have that same problem with the width and the length. It's a little bit too big in that 6x10 hoop. So these again, so in the same order. So the first step is going to be the placement line for the batting. Then you're going to lay your batting down, And step number 2 is going to be the batting tack down line, and then you're going to cut your batting, okay, trim your batting close to the stitches. And then it's that step number 3 and step number 4, the placement line for the fabric and the placement line or the tack down line for the backing fabric are the ones that are too big. So I am going to remove step number 3 and step number 4. Now again, I noticed that there's a little node up here in the top left-hand corner that is kind of hanging out over there, so it could make this a little bit too big. If you look at the top, it says it's 6.26. So I'm going to go ahead and look in my sequence view, and that little manual stitch, I'm going to remove that as well. Okay, now I look up and it says it's 6 by 10. Okay, and then my design is going to stitch. All right, so now we've got that one all fixed. And again, when you put your fabric down over the batting, make sure you might want to tape the edges, since there's no tack down stitch there. Just tape the edges down so it won't move around, and it's going to do that beautiful quilting, and then it'll do the design. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save this one. File, save as, and I'm going to call this one Cake with Quilting. Oops. 6 by 10, just so I remember this is the 6 by 10 version of it. I'm going to save it as a PES version 9, and I'm going to put it on my desktop. Okay, so then I have that one fixed. So if I want to use my 6 by 10 hoop, because see, I could actually do this, and I might do this in the video and in the class, is actually just use this design, because then I can show I can do it in a 6 by 10 instead of having to go to the 8 by 12. Okay. Now the last one, I had to think about it a little bit. Okay, so I had to think about this last block just a little bit, and I wanted to print out my instructions for the pieced part of it. So for those of you with the 6 by 10 hoop, you are going to have to do a little bit of it like traditionally pieced. So it's mostly just the stripes of the flag, and then you can do the star block in the hoop, and do that, but you won't add batting or anything to that. You'll piece that in the hoop, and then you'll piece the little strips, and there's a couple of extra pages of instructions for that. But I was trying to think of a way. They say to use the clear blue tile files to do the quilting on this, but I really think you can use the same design that you're using for the cake, because we can add, this is basically technique 2 for a pieced block in the hoop with the block by block designs. So it really will work fine. The only thing you will have to do is you're going to have to mark in with like a pen your like your seam allowance line. So when we get, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So I looked at my instructions for the pieced flag, and it says we're supposed to use Patriotic 3, the 6 by 10, which is the same one that we put on the cake. So we already have it done. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of my cake parts here. And I just have to select them. I'm going to use my shift key, selected the first piece, and I'm going to go down and select the bottom piece, and then just delete the whole cake. So there's, the cake is deleted. Okay, so now this is just the quilting part, and that's the part that we need for the flag. So you'll do the star in the hoop, and then you'll piece all the little strips together, and then you'll trim your block down to 6.5 by 10.5, it says, okay? And you're going to be trimming it. It said don't trim it on the edge of the star block, because it's already trimmed to the right size. You trim it on the end that all the stripes are on, okay? So then we want to put this in the hoop. So I want to get the batting in there first. So we put our, our no-show mesh stabilizer in there. And then the first step in the quilting designs is always, the batting placement line. And then you're going to lay your batting down, and then we're going to tack it down, and we're going to trim it around the outside. Okay. And then at this point, you're going to need to do a little marking with like a Frixion pen or a water-soluble pen on your stabilizer, because you need to mark like 1/4 of an inch all the way around the outside edge, because that's what would have stitched. That's the stitching we took out because it was too big, but there's still room in the hoop to mark it in. So I would just mark in your 1/4 inch, like with a pen or a Frixion pen, whatever works for you. And then I usually use like a little glue pen, one of those little small sew-line glue pens. And then I would just glue around the outside edge, right around the outside edge of that. And then I would take my pieced flag block, which was the exact right size, and then just lay it down inside those 1/4 inch marking, that seam allowance that I marked in on my hoop. Okay. I would then lay my flag in there, and then you could and I would tape it probably too. The glue usually holds it pretty well, but you might need to tape it a little bit just to be sure, because it's pretty small and it's just, it's not as big as the background fabrics because it has already been trimmed. So you might want to tape it also. And then just sew the batting, then just sew the quilting down. So basically you can do all the blocks in the 6x10 hoop easily. Just by doing some small alterations because of the size of the hoop. So, and now this one, so this was the one that was our cake block. So now let's just resave it. I'm just going to go File, Save As, and let's just save this one as the flag quilting 6x10. We'll just call it 6x10. And I'm going to put it on my desktop and save that. Okay. And now we have that one also saved then to be used for that block in a 6x10 hoop. So hopefully this helped. I just wanted to make sure that those of you that have the little bit smaller machines can still do all of this in the hoop. There's just a small alteration done, and it's something that most people have a little bit of software that they can do this basic editing with. And it really makes it a lot easier. I love doing everything in the hoop if I can. So, so hopefully this helped you. If you have any questions about this, give me, email me, Facebook me through Messenger. You can get me through Messenger. Sew Along with Jan. Come to the Facebook group and ask me there. Ask me on YouTube. Sew Along with Jan. So hopefully this helped, and I'm so excited to get started on Sweet Land of Liberty. We started a week from today. This is Memorial Day. So a week from today on June 6th, we're going to start working on Sweet Land of Liberty. We'll be doing some blocks that night, and I'm going to do another video today of some of the blocks also. So thanks so much for listening, and hopefully this helped you out with those 6x10 hoops. So you see, we can do the whole thing in a 6x10 hoop even. Thanks, everybody.